Call our meeting to order. Everybody please rise, bow your heads, and join me in a prayer to our Lord. Dear Lord, we thank you for the blessings of this day and all the blessings that you give us every day. We ask that you watch over our meeting tonight and guide our hearts and minds to make decisions that are in the best interest of this water system and its members. We ask that you watch over and protect our military men and women, first responders, all those who work to keep us free and safe and healthy. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
David, will you lead us in the pledge of
We'll
allegiance?
look at the American flag. Right out. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I want to thank everyone for coming to your water system meeting tonight. Welcome back into our not new boardroom, it's our old boardroom, but it's we're back in our boardroom. This room had been utilized for office space while the construction was going on to expand our offices here. We had kind of outgrown the building, and so now we're back in here, and hopefully we'll be in here for a good long time to come. I'd like to go over our meeting announcements. First of all, I'd like to announce that we do have a quorum. We need a minimum of 4, and we have all 7 of us here. Daryl has phoned in for the meeting. He wasn't able to be here in person. Audio and video recorders are in use. If you want to speak or in member forum, please fill out the member forum sign-up sheet in order to address the board. Also, if you want to speak on any individual, that helps. Any individual items that we're going to vote on, the way that works is we're going to have some presentation on the item. The board is going to have discussion, and prior to the board taking a vote, if you just raise your hand to be recognized or come up to the podium if you want to speak to the board prior to us taking a vote on a particular agenda item, then we'll recognize you and you'll get to give your input. We want to try to keep comments to 4 minutes or less. As long as you're making valid points, we can, maybe modify that a little bit, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time and give everyone an opportunity to speak. So I'd like to start off by welcoming our new CEO, Mr. Jeff Krigler. He's sitting there at the head of the table. Jeff comes to Holly Navarre Water System from the city of Panama City Beach, where he was the Assistant Utilities Director. Prior to that, he worked in consulting for more than 15 years, and prior to that, the Emerald Coast Utilities Authority in Pensacola. He is a registered professional engineer in the state of Florida and has worked in the wastewater field here in the Florida Panhandle since 1999. So he comes with a wealth of experience, and we interviewed, we took applicants for probably over 50 different candidates and interviewed a short list of those, and Jeff rose to the top as being the man we chose to be our leader for the near future. So Jeff, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, yeah, I'll say a few words, keep it brief. So thank you, Director Miller. First, I'd like to thank the staff for working real hard to get this room ready. They were working feverishly right up until almost 6 o'clock here, so I appreciate that. I've been on the job for about 3 weeks now, so still just getting to know everybody. I've enjoyed getting to know the staff and the directors. And this is a critical time for this company. In addition to the daily task of providing water and sewer services, we've got a very important CIP program to deliver. That includes the Eglin Reeves project, which is a critical project for this region. Of course, we also operate the Fairpoint Regional System, as well as we have the 2 subsidiaries, the Club of Hidden Creek and Messy. So there's a lot going on, and I'm looking forward to working with this whole team to solve these challenges. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jeff. All righty, we're going to jump right into our agenda. The first up on the agenda is the approval of minutes and transcripts. We have the December 20th regular meeting minutes and transcripts, the January 17th annual meeting minutes and transcripts, the January 23rd closed executive session redacted and unredacted minutes, and we have the January 23rd special reorganization minutes and transcripts. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes and transcripts, and do we have any comments or recommended changes? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes and transcripts listed as presented.
No motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
And second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Nays or abstentions?
I'm going to abstain from December 20th since I wasn't here.
Okay. Note one abstention from Joe on the December 20th. Motion carries. Approval of memberships. December new memberships were 204, canceled memberships 196, and 1 transfer. January new memberships were 198, canceled memberships 186, transfers 3. I'd like a motion to approve our membership.
Make a motion to approve the memberships as presented.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Unfinished business, we're going to go right into finance. Mr. Krigler.
Yes, so the first item is the review of the October 2022 financials for High-Water water system. These would normally be approved at our November meeting, but they weren't voted on, so I'll turn that over to Kim to review that.
So staff is representing the October financials. We have reviewed and there are no noted changes to the financials, so we're representing as previously presented.
Okay, has everyone had an opportunity to review those, and are there any questions? If not, I'd like a motion to approve the October financial as presented.
I make a motion to approve the October 22 financials as presented.
I'll second it.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Do we have any other financials under that category, or is that it just October?
We
Okay.
got them in the new business.
Oh, under new business, okay. I was like, wait a minute, there's the rest of our
Yeah.
financials. All right, help if I study this agenda a little more. All right, so member services, Mr. Krigler.
Yeah, so we're gonna, I guess, review our commercial impact fee policy. So basically, this policy is to review commercial accounts for their impact fees in cases where their usage has gone up. In this case, it's more than 10%. And this is, we are not, since we're not a municipality or a city, we don't regulate building expansions or renovations. So this is our way to track accounts where usage has gone up. So we have to do that by tracking their usage, and then we can see if they owe more impact fees. So this policy, we've had a full year of review for the accounts that were notified in 2020. So I'm gonna go one step back. I want to go to this first slide. I'm going to talk about 2 different types of accounts. So in last month, we sent out notifications to 26 accounts who that owed money based on having a year to lower their usage. So the totals on that, you can see they had a total about $490,000 over 26 accounts. So they had been notified in early 2022 that they had 1 year basically to get their usage down. So that on these 26, that it didn't come down to that level, so we sent these notices out. And then go to the next slide. The second group here is the accounts that were reviewed for 2022. So these are 14 accounts that we looked at their usage for 2022 and let them know that they have 1 year to adjust that. If not, then they'll owe this money. And for instance, on this slide, we had 1 account that was less than 1,000, 10 accounts in between 1,000 and 10,000, and 3 accounts that were over $10,000. So those accounts, like I said, were notified earlier this year, and they will have 1 year to adjust that usage. Now, the prior ones, like I said, that the initial bills that were sent out this past month, they had the year to bring that usage down. That did not happen, so we sent the bills out. So it's kind of a little bit of a complicated policy. I don't know if, Amber, did you want to expand on that any? But I think we've had four checks come in to date that have paid on those.
Okay.
The amounts listed on the chart, are those the amounts of the additional impact fees that they will owe based on their usage? Or I'm trying to understand what those amounts
Right,
represent.
so on that, yeah, on this one, these are the folks that have the 1 year to get their usage down. And it's just trying to say that there was the number of accounts in those dollar categories. It's just a breakdown. The dollars, the total dollars that would be owed between all the accounts is the 65,000. So that's another takeaway here is the dollar amount went down significantly. So the folks that owed based on 2022, it was that, almost $490,000. That's gone down to almost, let's see, what was it, 65,000. So, and this is kind of how we see this policy developing, that first year kind of caused the most pain here, but we think it will continue to go down and stay at the same level. So it kind of encourages these commercial accounts to really look at their usage. If they have like a leak, a slow leak they didn't know about, or maybe they did have an expansion, like a restaurant that added seats or something, and this is our way to track that. So we think once we get past this first year, we won't have as many kind of large bills that go out for this policy.
And we had a couple of accounts that challenged their issues or whatever, and were successful in getting that waived. I don't know if waived is the correct term, but nevertheless, they successfully challenged their additional usage.
We reviewed it. So the commercial accounts are always welcome to send in their questions when they get their letters. And we encourage them, if they have any documents, to send them to us, and it will cause us to look at it again for them.
I've got a question. Good question for you, Jim. Did you find that most of these businesses, they overran their water usage because they expanded or because they added on to their facility, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure we have that data, because we're just looking at usage. Do we?
I think it's safe to say it's all of the above.
Right.
And to back up just a tiny bit,
Yeah.
Actually, anyone that got charged this year, this cycle, has had 2 warning letters in
All right.
advance, not just one. There were some folks that were just flat out using the water or allowing it to leak, and that type of bill to a company on a monthly basis gets lost in the shuffle. They don't do anything about it. You tell them that they owe impact fees, and all of a sudden it means something to them. And so there were numerous that corrected it. And then you absolutely positively know that some of the commercial accounts have expanded. Particularly, there's a few restaurants, but there's a couple other commercial uses that had obviously, without mentioning names, that had obviously expanded too. And then there were some that just, Holly Navarre is pretty lenient when we charge impact fees to begin with. You get every chance in the world to keep it low, and they just guessed way too low.
So Phil, one of the things you said made me think that the 14 companies there were all part of the original 26. Is that a true
No,
statement?
it's 14 additional, we clarified.
Additional,
that this
okay.
afternoon.
Yeah.
These are
It's
companies,
additional.
that have come through in a new cycle and are
Okay.
now being reviewed.
Okay. Of the 26 from the year before, how many reduced their level to where they don't owe anything?
Well,
Or
the
will they always
26,
owe
the
something?
26 still owe, but I
Still owe.
can't,
Okay.
Amber might remember, it was a lot more than that went out in letters initially done. But I'd hesitate to throw a number out there. I'd be wrong.
But some did cut back their usage.
Yes.
They absolutely
Oh,
did.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
There was a restaurant in particular that had an extremely high bill, but it's mainly due because I believe they had leaks and they just weren't correct.
Yeah,
And
just
after they got the first letter, it went way back down. And then they have, since then, even though we've sent them a letter, we keep reviewing it, and they are creeping back up, so they may get another letter later. So.
There was one that said that we were mistaken in what he claimed that he had paid more impact fees than we showed him paying. Was that resolved?
I believe we're still waiting for some information from that commercial account, but it will soon be resolved.
Okay,
We're giving them the benefit of the doubt, you know, if they can,
that's fine.
if they can come in and prove us a different story, well then, we'll review it.
Okay, good.
Would it be beneficial at all to have these companies, when they do the expansion, could we give them some kind of a discount or benefit if they came to us without us having to catch them on the backside? And say, hey, we're gonna expand, we're gonna add 100 more seats, we're probably gonna use more water, you know, maybe get an impact.
We would just hope that they'd be honest and forthcoming and come to us in the beginning and say, hey, this is what we're gonna do. Will we owe additional impact fees?
Sure.
And we could work with them.
It is a requirement that if a commercial enterprise expands square footage or use, that they come to Hauling a Bar, but of course, we're not really part of the building code, so it kind of slides through, and not that anyone's intentionally trying to get around it, they just don't get caught.
David, that's why the board in 2020 said an annual review, so we can identify it.
Right.
And help them.
It
serve
seems
or-
to me like if they're gonna pay the same impact fee as somebody that comes to us and lets us know, it seems like maybe there should be some kind of a penalty or something that would encourage them to, anyway, I was just throwing that out there for thought.
And when this policy was approved by the board to begin doing this, we had discussed the option of someone that has a really large impact fee being able to finance their impact fees. Have we offered that to anyone yet, or have they taken us up on that?
It was included in the letter that went out, that they could qualify for financing. They just needed to send the email to start that ball rolling, so to speak. And then it would be reviewed. And I believe the decision was left up to the CEO at that point.
Okay, but have we had anybody ask for that yet? Okay. All right. Any other questions, any other information on this? All right, so that was information only, no action needed on that. Okay. All righty, next up, organizational resources, employee handbook. It's got me covering this, but everyone received in their packets a red line version as well as a final version on that. We're not expecting, that was a couple hundred pages of information. Along with everything else we had to review, we're not expecting action on that tonight, but I think our goal on that is to, if we can get a commitment from all the board members to spend a couple of weeks, going over that, and if we can get any comments through email to the board, so that we can hopefully have a final version in March. We've been working on this, how long, Jared?
About 9-10 months.
I was gonna say, it's pushing a year. By March, it'll be almost a year, and we'd like to get our handbook updated, employee handbook updated. So anyway, is that doable for everyone?
You want to set a date, Mark, for when we give you comments?
Well, can we just
Or who do
say,
we give them to?
yeah, I'd like to maybe put them in an email, and let's say 2 weeks from tonight, whatever that date might be.
Do they go just to you, or do they go to?
No,
the
let's
board?
copy all, March 7th. If we can get comments on that by March 7th. If you do them tomorrow, that's fine. Just March 7th be the deadline for comments on that. If we need to, we talked about this before, having a kind of a special committee to go over that. So if there's enough changes that we need to actually discuss it, or anything that's, controversial, or, people don't agree with, maybe we could schedule that, have a special workshop on that to get this thing to the finish line.
I think that's going to be required, that you have another working group, because I'm sure there's going to be conflicts. People won't agree with, 7 of us won't agree on
Well,
some things.
My question was going to be, our HR folks have reviewed it, our CEO has reviewed it, I'm going to assume by the time we get there, and our HR representative from Clark Partington has represented, so I wouldn't have thought us novices here are going to find something in the HR legal world, but
I think it may come down to,
I guess for the need for another subcommittee to do it versus our questions on what does this mean, what's that? We've already cleared the PTO, right? We've already done the holiday schedule, so just a comment.
I think it's more question, not necessarily about the legality of the changes, but the, you know, the effect of any of the changes on employees and that kind of thing, so.
There's an awful lot of non-legal and just, you know, code of conduct and stuff in there that I don't know if it necessarily belongs in there, but if you're gonna put it in there, I have some concerns about some of the stuff.
Okay. Well, if we can.
I'll send it out.
Yeah, if we can email that out and just kind of start a little email trail going on that, that would be great. Any other comments on that?
Email the whole board and, of course, Jeff and
Yes.
HR.
Well, when you email the 2023 Board of Directors, it goes to Jeff.
I think
Now,
it
if
should go to HR too.
You want to copy Jared in on that?
Yeah, or I can forward it to them.
Okay.
All right. All right. Information only on that. Okay, so next up is the club at Hidden Creek and Messy operating agreement amendments. Mr. Pickles?
Yes, so I believe in January, the board directed legal to draft an amendment to the Club at Hidden Creek's operating agreement, which would essentially require that their annual budget be approved by the Holly and Water Water System Board, you know, on an annual basis. After, you know, looking at this, we also recommended that we do the same for Messy as well. And Messy has, I guess, they're called administrative policies, not so much an operating agreement, but what we're looking for is that both annual budgets be approved by the Holly and Water Sewer Board. That would be prior to December, in time for their budgeting process. So we were looking for a motion to approve those two amendments. And Will, those are drafted and.
They are. Mr. President, I prepared a memo, and in a way that would, you can accomplish that, both the modification to the club at Hidden Creek, the motion would need to be to add a sentence to the end of paragraph 4.3 that reads, quote, "The company shall submit its budget annually for approval by the member at the member's December meeting," close quote. That would affect the change that you directed, meaning that the Club at Hidden Creek board budget would be approved by this board at its December meeting. So upon a motion and a second and a vote on that, that would accomplish that.
Why don't we split these two items and do the club at Hidden Creek first, and then we'll do the Messy.
That's what I just,
Yes.
that was the club at Hidden Creek.
Okay, all right, yeah, so I'd like a motion that says that at the end of paragraph 4.3, we'll read, "The company shall submit its budget annually for approval by the member at the member's December meeting." Now, the only other question I would have on that is, should we word that either at the members' December meeting or on or before the members' December meeting? Because if we could do that and knock it out in November, you know, would we want to do that? Would we want to approve the budget sooner than December?
We do our budgets in December, right?
Well, yes.
Yes and no.
It's
supposed to
the
do ours.
preliminary anyway. I just didn't know if it would help staff to go ahead and do the Hidden Creek budget early, and then that would be done, and then all we would be worried about in December is the final water system budget. I'm okay either way. I just didn't know if we want to say at the December meeting or on or before the members' December meeting.
I think it's pretty smart to have a little flexibility, right?
Yeah. Any other discussion? Anybody in favor of leaving it at or on or before? I'd like to have a vote that we can all agree on. Daryl, are you still with us?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Okay, I just want to make sure, just checking back in.
I'm gonna make the motion and then have some discussion.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go ahead and make a motion, I'll
No, I don't want to make a motion. For discussion, basically, I'm against adding this in there because I thought that's why we designed putting 2 board members on and the CEO on the board to have them run the place. And I don't think the board of directors approving this is going to add anything to it if those folks have any objection. I don't know how much knowledge we will have to be able to really review it and find anything of substance wrong with it. So I think taking that away from the management of the club at Hidden Creek, I think is a mistake.
Well, the problem is the management of the club at Hidden Creek, in effect, has no oversight from this board on their budget or their expenditures, because the way the agreement reads, it says that any unbudgeted expenditures over $25,000 have to come before this board. But if it's in the budget and this board doesn't approve it, then we in effect don't have any oversight over that. So that's the reason we requested to add that, because there's nothing to keep that board of managers from spending over $25,000 without this board having any oversight on it. That's contrary to our purchasing policy for Holly Bar water system.
I don't interpret it that way, but okay.
That was the reason that this was brought up. All right, so I'm going to make the motion that the end of paragraph 4.3 shall read.
Mr. President,
Yes.
you'd have to pass a gavel to make the motion, but you can do that. Just pass it to the vice chair.
Would anyone else like to make the motion, or? I'm passing the gavel to the vice chair.
I'll make the motion that we change that paragraph to include on or before the December meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll take the gavel back then. All right, so now we have a motion and a discussion. The motion is that the end of paragraph 4.3 shall read, the company shall submit its budget annually for approval by the member on or before the member's December meeting. That's the motion. Any discussion?
If we're going to do that, I'd like to also include that this board gets the meeting minutes from Hidden Creek and Messie's monthly meetings, so we can have some sort of idea of what's going on, so we can, like Bill says, so now we will know what their budget intentions are. So
I would love to have the monthly meeting minutes from the Board of Managers at the club at Hidden Creek.
our legal counsel has said all we need to do is make that motion, so if you're including that, or if I can make that after that,
I'd
I'm
like
okay
that
with
to be a separate motion,
Okay.
unless it would affect your vote on this.
Nope.
Doesn't affect your vote on this?
Nope.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Darrell?
Aye.
Okay, any nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, Joe, would you like to?
I'd like to make a motion that include in the monthly board packets that the meeting minutes for the club at Hidden Creek and Messie be included like we get the finances. Like we get the meeting minutes for our minutes. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. And I think that would fit right under committee updates. That would be a great place to
You
put
told me to
that.
make it now.
What's that?
You told me to make the motion now.
No, what I'm saying is,
Check.
in our monthly
Got it.
meetings, have a committee update, just have
No,
the group.
I'm not saying they have to present them to us if they're in our packet,
Okay,
right? Just so we can see what they're doing. I don't necessarily know we need to, so we don't go over our meeting
We're
minutes.
just gonna review them, we're not gonna approve their meeting minutes, right?
We're just gonna
be in the packets.
Yeah, just in the packet.
Their boards.
And the reason I bring it up is because legal has said for the whole board to get it, we just need to make a motion, so that's my
Okay.
motion.
all right. Any other discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Before, I'm sorry, Mr. President, I want to make clear, are we amending the operating agreement to add this, or did you just want this to be a separate motion?
Separate motion.
Okay, so the operating agreement, your earlier motion amended the operating agreement. This is simply a direction to the Club at Hidden Creek Board.
Yes.
To provide its meeting minutes monthly.
Yes.
Got it, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Messie operating, well, it's not an operating agreement.
And Mr. President, in order to effect the desired change that was, you can make on a motion, you can make a motion to amend the messy administrative policies by adding the following sentence to the end of the first paragraph. Quote, Messy shall submit annually a proposed budget, comma, which shall be approved by the Holly Navarre Water System Board no later than at its December meeting, close quote.
The question I always have, do we need to update the administrative procedure for Messy? Is there anything in there that you think that needs to be reviewed and updated?
I don't.
To make that an operating agreement too, or is that, they're not subject to be an operating agreement? Does that not work for you all?
Well, it's called different, we're not an LLC, so there's not an operating agreement.
Okay,
It's just the agreement by which we agree to operate under Holly Navarre.
Is there anything in there, Phil, that does need to be updated that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. Would anyone like to make a motion to make that change that Will just read to us?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on that?
So why don't we alter that to say on or before like we did?
It does say that. It says no later than at its
It
December
says
meeting.
no later, okay.
Yeah, but good call.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. All righty. We're gonna move on to water use permit leak adjustments. We're looking at options of possible, going back to some policies where we may give an adjustment for leaks and/or an adjustment for sewer charges when there is a leak. This is up for board review. There was some information in your packet and a recommendation from staff on that. We've had this policy in the past. Other utilities have a policy that gives folks some forgiveness for, one-time leaks. The recommendation from staff is that we do it as a once in a lifetime adjustment for leak. That was staff's recommendation after looking over our policies. So does anyone have any comments, suggestions? Does anyone want to make a motion on that item?
I have plenty of questions.
I do too.
This is probably going to be our longest agenda topic, I would say. It probably has the most controversy.
Yeah, so a little background's probably helpful here. I believe it was in March of 2022 when all adjustments were eliminated. And I think the reasoning at the time was an interpretation of conditions of our water use from the Northwest Florida Water District. Since then, we revisited the issue with our water management district. In my understanding, that we can do the one-time leak adjustments and not be in, and still be in conformance with the permit. So that was kind of an updated interpretation we got. And if you look in the packet, so staff's identified kind of 6 or 7 specifics of the policy that will help them implement this and lessen the confusion in terms of how far it looks back, in terms of how it's calculated. So they've got some good language in here, and that's on the first page here. And they've also come up with a form here in the packet that the customer would sign and acknowledges kind of this is a one-time thing and some of the other specifics. So, and as Mark mentioned, it's something that we think is good for the members just because it's, most utilities do this. I had a gentleman email me that was a service member who was out of the country, and he had a big leak on his property, and it was hard to explain to him why we can't do the one-time adjustment. It was something that was definitely not his fault. It was nothing he could do, and we just think this is a one-time is really a good customer service policy. So that's kind of where we landed on it.
And this is a forgiveness of water and sewer charges for the amount of the leak, not their total monthly bill, correct? That they take a
Yes,
12-month
it brings them
average?
back to the average, that's what it does, and correct.
Yeah.
So we would either use a 12-month average if they've been a customer long enough, but as long as we had 3 months, that would give us a good average for their bill.
And my only concern, I'm definitely in favor of us going down this direction. I think it's the right thing to do for our members. It's a customer-friendly policy, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime. You know, they get one shot at it, and if they have another leak, you know, they only get it once. So, you know, the intent of the one-time, once-in-a-lifetime policy is to, you know, once it's happened to somebody, you know, once anything bad happens to you, you're more aware of it and more concerned, and you know, staff at that point will have recommended to them that they sign up for the customer portal, which will notify them of a leak, you know, within 24 hours of using more water than they have programmed their customer portal. They're going to get a notification. That happened to me just last month. I left my hose running outside and, you know, got a notification that I used, it wasn't running, you know, full on, but it was trickling. And I got a notification that day in my email that, hey, you're using more than your normal usage. So I'm like, wonder what's going on. Went around like, dummy me, I left the hose on. So I turned it off, and I got that notification for several more days because it affected not only my daily average, but my weekly average. And so I got that notice a couple of days in a row. I knew I'd already taken care of it, but the system does work. So we want to make sure we're educating all of our members that analytics is out there to notify you when you have that. So maybe that'll help people not, you know, have any future leaks. You can always have a plumbing leak. But
I'm just having a problem with the once in a lifetime thing. You know, a lot of people have pools in their area too, and they want to be able to, you know, if they need to, fill their pool up and not pay for sewer as well.
And
So
I think
that's a different topic, and I do want to go there.
Well, are they connected? Like, that was news to me hearing about the water management saying that, you know, we couldn't do what we're proposing.
Yeah, we actually got
we
actually got an opinion from the Water Management District that they really don't have any concern about what we do as far as our charges for sewer. So, you know, while that policy was eliminated with us being under the opinion that, you know, that was going to hurt our water use permit, it actually says we can give a credit for sewer on that, but that would be a separate adjustment if we go back to that and allow that. I'm not in favor of giving, you know, an adjustment for a pool fill. I think it has to be a leak on the water usage side of things, but I am in favor of us giving an adjustment for the sewer charges, because when someone fills their pool, they're not putting anything into our sewer system, and why should we be charging them for it? So, but again, this board changed those policies last year, and we're reconsidering that at this time.
So this specifically details leaks. This is what the staff has looked at, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So my questions are, is this retroactive? If so, when? And I would like to see this tied to not just the member portal, but accepting notifications, because we have people sign up for the portal, but they don't sign up for notifications. And our system doesn't catch it, but like you said, they do. So I'm kind of for it, as long as it's tied to some responsibility of the customer, member, because one member leaking is taking my water from it, right? So how do we give members to be a little responsible in that regard?
Well, we could.
And I'm just, for clarification, this is on the member side, not the water system side. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you. This is the member side, right? This is not.
It would have to be on the member's side,
Right.
because if it was on our side of the meter, it wouldn't affect the member's bill.
Right.
Like I say, I'm kind of for it. I just would like to tie it with some sort of responsibility of the member of signing up for the portal, so that the future, so it doesn't happen. Okay, if we're gonna forgive you one time, that's great. We'll accept that $1,000 or whatever it is for the whole membership to pay. But then you need to sign up for and get the notification, so it doesn't happen in the future. I mean, I don't know how many repeat leaks we have, but.
Yeah. Is it habitual or just random? I don't know.
beyond this.
Well, they're only gonna get it once, and so I think it's up to staff.
No, what he's asking is, if you have more than one leak and you forgive it, but then you're gonna have another leak. I understand it's just a one-time deal, and I'm kind of for that, I get that. Even though it's, you know, it's my house, it's my leak. I'd just like to tie it somehow to, I don't know how we could tie it to members signing up for notification so it doesn't happen again. And then the question on, from here, from 1 March, from retroactive back a full year.
I would like, because we've had several contact the board emails in the last month or two, I would like to make it, you know, retroactive to like January 1. Have we had many requests, Amber, since the first of the year, or?
Since the first of this year?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we had a very cold December where there was a freeze, so there were a lot of customers that were affected. But we had customers that were affected further back than that, where we've set up payment arrangements, allowing them to make payments on a bill that, you know, was high.
I know it's gonna get difficult
So
to.
if you go, yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, because if you go back to January, then what about the person who had the leak back in June, or the person who we set up payment arrangements for, and who are, for the most part, almost done with that? You know, when we explained to them that there was no adjustment for leaks, we worked with them in order to make it manageable.
But we're still charging them for sewage as well, even if it's just a leak, correct?
There were no leak adjustments, so
Okay.
yes, you paid both the water, and
Right.
if you were on sewer, you paid the sewer as well.
I'm absolutely on board with waiving the sewage. Yeah, because none of that water goes back into the system.
But the question is, how far you want to go back?
Yeah, I know. That's the hard part.
Yeah. That's why we get paid the big bucks.
Well, I know we had a good bit of cold weather in December. We had a number of people with pipe breaks
Yep.
in December, but by the time they got their bill,
January.
you know, it's January. So, you know, if they contacted us since the first of the year and requested an adjustment to their bill, you know, we're trying to go back and right a wrong, and we didn't really have a regular meeting in January to discuss this. So this is our first opportunity as a board to revisit this policy. So what's the board's appetite for making it retroactive?
So the prior policy was done away with just last spring, essentially?
Somewhere
Is that what
around
I
there.
heard?
I don't know the exact time frame,
Okay,
but
so it's been less than a year that people have been affected with having to pay for the sewer and pay for the leak because we didn't have a policy. Personally, I would favor going back to when did the last policy end. If we think we did something not customer supportive and that we want to change now, we shouldn't have ever changed it to begin with. So if you're asking me, my vote would be retroactive back to whenever the policy was voted out. If it's, especially if we're only talking 9 months. Well, I'm sorry, it's February, so it might be 11 months now.
If they contacted the board and requested
Yep,
it,
if they contacted the board and
We
requested.
don't keep a record of that. We don't keep a record of any of that, so.
proof is on them. I mean,
well,
Yeah.
the contact the board, we have records of those emails, but we don't have records of all the
Yeah,
contacts to
it
staff.
doesn't sort though, they're not sorted.
email, right?
So if you wanted to make the policy retroactive back to the last time where we had leak adjustments, it really should fall to the customer to reach out to us and request that adjustment again, instead of making staff try to find emails or contacting customers.
Yeah.
I don't know how we could make sure that we contacted everyone.
And that is gonna be their one-time leak adjustment, right?
Right,
Yeah.
one time. And they need to know
If you
that.
paid for it already, it could be, well, I paid for that, maybe I saved this leak adjustment for
All right.
down the road. So
Or
And
give them
and I'm
money
not in
back.
favor of giving them any money back, it would just be a credit, would be my opinion on that. If they've already paid for it, they'll have a credit, but
But they'll
unless you
still
have
use
a,
their one-time
unless you have a
adjustment.
better plan on that, because we've got to either cut them a check or we've got to give them a credit.
What was the old policy? Was it a case by case where the board reviewed whether they were gonna forgive it, or what? Did we not have an old policy?
It was a one-time adjustment if you were a water-only customer and you had a leak. But if you had a leak and you were on sewer, as long as you got it fixed, we would adjust. And so we did have customers that regularly had leaks requesting adjustments to their sewer bills.
And the way it was being done,
That's fair, that's fair, that's fair, the water and going into the sewers.
Okay.
Adjusting the sewer bills
So,
is fair.
well, and that's the point. The way at the time it was thought not to be with the permit. So. All right.
Yeah.
Want to make a motion, Joe?
Well, I am. I just wanted 30 seconds of Jeff.
I'm not
Any
trying to rush
brothers?
you.
Huh?
I'm just saying.
I was gonna make a motion, just as Don said, I make a motion, we move with this policy retroactive to March of 2022, when it was rescinded. If the customer can provide us, we're not gonna reach out. It's on the, onus is on the customer to provide it, then we'll provide, the one time. But I would like to make it, and I know this is getting along, that a contingent on the member sign up and maintain notifications on the member portal.
I agree with that. I'll second that.
Yeah.
Amber doesn't like to talk, so I'm gonna say it for her, but
Go ahead.
there's no way for us to enforce that part of that.
Well, part of the other concern is that we live in a community that, yes, a lot of it's military and there's a lot of technology, but we also have a lot of older people who are not inclined.
Email savvy.
Yeah, who, some of them don't have computers or the ability to set up those alerts. So to make it contingent.
I would rather go by the point is trying to push it out so that they then tell their neighbor, hey, I've got this, right? We got only 1,700 people signed up out of 17,000-ish.
A little bit more than
I
that.
understand the enforcement may not be, and it shouldn't be on you. I'm looking to push, more education out there. I would just like it in here somewhere, it's saying that they have signed up for the member portal and notifications. Enforcement, I'm not asking staff, Jeff, I don't think the board is asking staff to, that's not in my motion for the staff to.
If they don't have the wherewithal to enforce it, I don't know that we can make that a requirement of the policy.
But on this form where they say, I want a one-time adjustment, all we do is add something that says they've signed up for not only the member portal, but notifications, which staff can validate. And now if you want me to expand, the motion would include the CEO, the authority to exclude those that don't have phones. They can't meet that.
So we could add a line saying, I agree to sign up for the member portal and notifications, but
My motion says that on this form, they will include that before we do the leak adjustment.
and say again what you want that to say on
But
the
it
form.
can say what Mark said, that's all.
Right. So that on this form, going back to, if you want me to restate it, back to when the last policy was rescinded, based on them filling out this form to include signing up for member portal and notifications. That's it. Nothing about staff enforcing it, but on this form should be that they signed up. Staff can validate that they have signed up and walk away from that. They don't ever have to read it, they don't ever have to get the email notifications. We just want it there to.
Can they have their son or their grandson or their granddaughter's email as part of their member portal, because not everybody has an email account.
Again, like they said, I don't think staff should enforce it, I just want the member to be able to say, I have signed up for it and have some credence.
Can the notifications be done by cell phone?
Wherever you get email.
No, just email.
Email.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that? Go ahead.
Can you also clarify whether it's cash or credit? Credit for service?
Both credit.
Because you're gonna go back, you have people
How about we
set
let
up
the
payment
CEO
plans
decide
on
that?
it.
I mean, do we need
Yeah,
to
give
get,
the credit.
Yeah, I'm not advocating either way, I just want to make sure it's clear for that.
Right, no, I agree, that's a concern. What do you think, Jeff? A credit to the account?
I agree.
So it will be in the form of a credit, will you add that to your motion, Joe?
So,
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Any other discussion? Darrell, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, but I think everything's going about the way I think it should. So I'm kind of trying to be quiet because I know it's kind of hard to hear me.
Well, that's why I wanted to invite you to chime in if you wanted to. Prior to the board taking a vote, is there anyone from the audience that wants to comment on this? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstention? Motion carries. I'd like to discuss also credit for sewer portion of pool fills. And I don't think that should be a lifetime adjustment. We did have that policy where we would give a credit for the sewer portion of a swimming pool fill. At the same time we made this policy, we took away that credit for the sewer portion of a swimming pool fill. I'd like to see us get back to that because I think that's the fair thing to do. I don't think we should be charging for sewer when someone is not using sewer.
Okay, I agree, but is there a frequency or is there a
What you
number
got,
that,
Clinton?
can you do it once a year?
Once
or
a
can you
year.
do it once-
Once a year.
Anything, we still believe anything other than a once in a lifetime is a violation of our permit.
I was
Okay.
gonna do that.
Yeah,
Well, but the Water Management District, it says excluding swimming pools.
Yeah, that's we didn't include anything in here with regard to that, but that's a separate statement, not related to the statement above. It just, all that statement that does is allow us to give you a meter for that purpose. It doesn't mean you don't get charged for it or allows us to exclude that charge.
I'm not saying we shouldn't charge them for the water, I'm saying we shouldn't charge them for the sewer.
Yeah.
We're charging them for the water and they're being charged a higher rate for the more water they
I
use.
think at some point we clarified with the Water Management District that that was not the intent, right? That the pool thing.
Florida.
They don't care about what we do is about sewer charges, all they care about is water charges.
It's a conservation measure. They want you to charge so that you're not constantly filling your pool with potable water.
But they're charging, we're still charging them for the water though, right?
Our permit specifically originally kept us from giving you, if we're not gonna charge for pools, why should we charge for people to irrigate their water that choose not to have stained concrete or all?
yeah.
So if that's the case, why don't we just give them a meter for water use only? We can't do that.
Right.
That's specifically excluded from our permit.
But a pool fill is a one-time thing, and you can actually look at the analytics and see, oh, they filled their pool during the
Yeah.
course of this week.
I think she'd disagree with you on that, because people try and, we have no way to know what your pool volume is, but that's a separate point, I'll grant you that. But we can't give you a meter for water only. So how do you distinguish a pool fill from anyone that irrigates their yard with our water, or anyone that washes their car once a week?
But it's only a once a year thing, and they're probably gonna do it in the spring. They're gonna fill their pool in the spring, so if we only give them a once a year,
I don't know anybody in
Adjustment.
Florida that empties their pool, if that's what you're saying.
well, but they're gonna top it off, refill it, you know. They may let the water level go down in the winter.
So I have a question.
But
So,
if it's a new pool, it's obviously gonna be a one-time.
right, so this is a situation where the customer actually has to contact the water company and say, hey, I'm about to fill my pool. Can somebody check my meter? And then after they fill it, check the meter again. Is that the way it was done previously, or just?
It's an after-the-fact thing usually. I filled my pool this month, you know.
Right, well, that's
I want
what
credit.
I would suggest then. If you have a new house or a pool that you just got installed, you have to fill it. Why can't we put it on the customer, put the burden on them to contact us and say, hey, I want to fill my pool. Can somebody, let me know when's a good time? And that way we know exactly how many gallons they used.
The analytics will tell us, how much, what their usage was
Right,
on
but
this day.
this still puts the burden on the customer.
Right.
If they don't want to get charged for sewage, then they need to contact us before they fill the pool. Otherwise, we're going to charge them for sewage because that's what we see in our system. I mean, that's my thoughts.
I think they're worried about the permit.
Yeah.
What?
They're not concerned with the sewage, then that wouldn't be a problem.
Daryl?
It's a tough one.
As a customer, it wouldn't be a problem for me.
Can everyone hear me?
No, it's easy.
let's
Yes.
give Daryl the floor.
Okay. Last year, whenever this issue came up and the board changed its policy after management had changed it for them, I emailed with the Northwest Florida Water Management District. And through all of the emails that I went through with them, they came up with the final conclusion that they didn't have anything to do with sewer. And if we didn't want to charge for sewer whenever somebody was filling their pool, that was our business and not theirs. And it didn't have anything to do with our water permit. So unless anything's changed since last year, I'd like to see it. I do not think we should do it on an annual basis. I think that's too difficult for staff. But I think if you put it out at a 3 to 5 year basis, it'd be something good for the members, plus it would help on water conservation, because we need to keep that in mind for certain.
So are you saying do it as a,
The sewer charge goes back to conservation methods and measures. So for a non-potable use, you charge a higher rate. So just say, if it wasn't a sewer charge, you're charging at a higher rate for that water, for that non-potable. We get hung up on the sewer charge.
Yeah.
But the sewer charge is a higher rate, which meets the permit criteria. So we're not,
The fact that we charge a sewer rate and we don't allow annual averaging of sewer, the department considers the penalty, that to be the penalty rate for those folks that have water and sewer. That's promotion of conservation. I'm certain the
But that's
department,
the specific question that I asked them.
yeah, they just seem to have a different interpretation for us than they did. But again.
well, and there's no penalty for someone that's on septic. They're not paying the sewer charge. So it's a disparity in someone that's on sewer getting penalized at a higher level than someone that's on septic. Someone that's on septic is just paying for the water, the additional water they use.
And I recommend we have the CEO and staff look into it and give us a recommendation on whether it would or wouldn't violate our permit.
Do we want to table this, or do we want to vote on it?
Well,
The other thing I would
there's nothing
add
in the agenda to vote on, so.
Yeah, the other thing I would add is, they came up with several specifics for this leak adjustment policy. I think we want to do the same thing if we're going to do this pool fills, we can really define it better.
I do think it would be helpful for staff if the board were to come to some consensus. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the department would be just fine for a one-time adjustment. And include that in pool fills, which is actually in the leak adjustment that you got. No doubt in my mind that would be okay with the department. Once a year, I can see being a problem. Once and some other time, I don't know. But if we're gonna ask the department for a specific interpretation, it'd be good to know what the consensus was of that return of the time frame.
But for the leak adjustment, you're talking about both the water and the
and
sewer
No,
adjusted.
that's correct. So, I mean, you could have.
So basically,
separate-
you'd be giving them a free pool fill one time.
And that could be separate from the leak adjustment. I'm just suggesting that it would be helpful for us when the department is a political animal.
Why don't we table this, and Daryl, will you share the emails that you received from Northwest Florida Water Management with the board?
Yes, I will, and I believe if everybody will go back to that March time frame from last year, at least the board members that were there last year, they'll find those changes. Because I did provide them to everyone back then, but I'll go back and find and send it to everyone again.
Yeah, send them to Jeff, and then Jeff can forward them out, if nothing else, to Mike and David. They wouldn't have gotten those in their email.
All right, will do.
Okay, so we're going to table that section of that. And before we move on to new business, I neglected to do something at the beginning of the meeting, and I apologize to Joe, but in welcoming our new CEO, I wanted to recognize Joe Campbell for stepping into the interim CEO position for the majority of last year and part of this year. Joe did that even though he had officially retired. He jumped back into a job of being the interim CEO of the water system, and so I just want to publicly thank Joe for stepping in and doing that. I know he took a lot of arrows in that position. So
Nuclear bombs, not arrows.
well, nuclear bombs, arrows, but
Nobody's happier to see Jeff here than me.
but thank you, Joe, for stepping in and doing that.
Yep, thanks.
All right, so first item under new business, CEO update. We've got several things that Mr. Krigler would like to update us on,
Yeah.
so I'd turn the floor over to him.
Yes, I have a few items to go over. The first one is the check signers. So we need to get my name added to the Holly Noir water system as a check signer. I think we've taken care of Hidden Creek and Messy, based on previous board action. There was a future CEO, they voted, but I need to be added to the Holly Noir water system. And we also need to, I think, take Joe off as a, or we stay on, we'll have that discussion, that's my second item, is the treasurer secretary split, but, we need to add myself, and then I need to be added, to the Sun Biz.
Okay, can we get a motion to add Jeff Krigler to the Holly Navarre water system list of check signers?
So moved.
Second.
And so the discussion on that would be the check signers will then be Joe Campbell, Mark Miller, Bill Thiel, Clinton Wells, and Jeff Krigler. All right, any discussion on that item? All in favor say aye.
Well, I was just saying, is it historically the president and the vice president, or just the president?
It's usually just the president, but it can be anybody, you know, we've
Okay.
had,
Yep.
we've had directors on, you know, it needs to be somebody that's fairly accessible that can come in and sign checks.
Good with that.
Okay. So we kind of voted, everybody said aye. Darrell, are you aye? Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. And then the other thing we need to clear up is we need to update SunBiz with Jeff Krigler as our CEO and registered agent. Is there anything we need?
Mark, I was an aye, I had it on mute.
What's that?
I was an aye, I had it on mute, y'all couldn't hear me.
Oh, okay. All right, so that was a unanimous vote. We need a motion to add Jeff Krigler as the CEO and registered agent on our SunBiz.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? So the SunBiz will then add Jeff as CEO, registered agent, and it will have all of our officers listed on there as well. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, did we clear up everything that we need to clear up there?
What I need to know from the staff, have they updated the check signing so that the new board can do it for Hidden Creek? Because I was told that I was still to sign those until I got all the permits taken. Has that been taken care of?
The new check signing cards, I don't think have been signed yet, but we're waiting to do that all at once. Is that correct, Emerald? Yeah.
Yes, we're waiting for clear direction. If you want to ratify your previous motions, because there was a couple questions regarding the Massey especially.
Okay, so why don't we just go ahead and go through and do that? We want to ratify that and I'll do this all under one motion. Can I get a motion that the check signers for the club at Hidden Creek will be Jeff Krigler, Darrell Lynchard, Mike Matthews, and Clinton Wells, and the check signers for Messy will be Phil Phillips, Jeff Krigler, Dale Long, Bill Thiel, and David Crumbly. Can we ratify that? That was what our intent was at our last meeting, but it was a little confusing because Jeff wasn't on board yet, and we said we would do that once he came on board. So can I get a motion to that effect?
I think staff has a question there.
They need to be the treasurer.
The treasurer on what?
Well, Bill's the secretary, right?
Well, this is for Club at Hidden Creek and Messy.
He's on Messy. He's
On
on Messy.
Yeah, he's on Messy. And
He's the secretary, and he's not on the Messy board.
okay, so he doesn't need to be on the Messy's check signers?
If it's your pleasure, that's fine, but that,
I can be, but I don't have to be. And I think you got 4 on the other one, so probably 4 would be enough. You need me on the Messy one?
Well, and
As far as I'm concerned, we don't care, as long as it's board members and officers of the corporation.
It's up to you
The
all.
more the merrier.
I'm willing to do it, but if you don't think it's
Let's leave Bill on there because Phil and Dale can only both sign if.
We don't.
Right.
Dale and I would only sign a check together in the most extraordinary of circumstances. It's only intended for Dale to be a signer if I'm not there. So those two signatures are never gonna occur on a check.
Okay. So I think, having Bill on there would give us an
That's
availability
fine.
of 4
Yeah,
on
absolutely.
there.
And he's treasurer of representing the shareholders. Oh, you're the treasurer.
He's the treasurer now, we split that up, so you want to switch it to Joe instead of me.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm ambivalent.
it doesn't matter.
It's just somebody that can come in and sign a check if needed.
I like Bill.
Bill, okay.
He golfs more than I do.
All right, so can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion on that? We're really just kind of clarifying what we voted on at our reorg meeting. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Darrell's an aye. Motion
Yes, I'm gonna.
motion carries. Okay, what else, Mr. Krigler?
So we have the actual split of the treasurer and secretary duties. Director Teal had drafted a kind of a proposed breakdown that's under tab 1 under new business. Basically, the duties of the secretary are specified in bylaws, but I think the duties of the treasurer, once broken out, kind of have to be specifically listed. Is that what your intention there was, Bill?
Yes. But because of the things that I've typically been doing, that I would consider under the treasurer realm, as it were, is the chair of the finance committee and the chair of the subcommittees under that. I think those really belong to the treasurer because they all deal with finance, but it's up to the board. I did them for this past month, but only because during a reorg meeting, we didn't split the duties.
Right.
So that's why I came up with this thing, which is in your packets. It's for board consideration, and that's the way I would split them up, but that's up to the board to decide whether that's the way you all want to split them up. And I did also recommend we remove the Eglin Committee from under the subcommittee, because that's a one-person
separate-
show now because of Sunshine Law.
Well, and it's really a separate committee other than a finance committee. So I would be in favor of, Joe being the overall finance committee chair. I just don't know if he should also chair each of the subcommittees. We've already, appointed Director Linnell under CIP and Director Lynchard under Budget OEM, so.
Well, they're members of the committee.
Right.
But the finance committee chair historically has chaired those in the past.
He'd be replacing what Bill does now.
Yes.
The treasurer was always
For
the
those
chair,
committees.
the others were just members of the committee.
Members of the committee. What's the board's opinion on that?
I like what Bill has put together and what's in our package. Change it to where essentially stuff he was doing under the treasurer hat now just goes to Joe. That's the way I read what he put together.
Okay. And does someone want to make a motion?
I will move that we annotate the treasurer duties and assign them to Joe as per the information in our packet. I don't have it in front of me, I can't read it line by line.
And the secretary duties as Bill has outlined?
As Bill has laid out, yeah. Secretary and treasurer as Bill has laid out in our packet.
And if we ever recombine them both again, then the secretary treasurer picks it all up. So that's a no-brainer.
Right. Okay, that was a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Darrell, any discussion?
No discussion for me, I'm good.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Krigler?
Yes, I wanted to provide a quick update on the forensic audit. So 4 proposals were received last fall, formal, I guess, a limited forensic audit. I believe the board authorized or had the intention to authorize up to $50,000 for this effort. After a review of the proposals, it seems like there's a little bit of it's not clear. They propose an actionable forensic audit or an internal controls audit. It's like a fine line there. So what I'm kind of suggesting is that I reach out to the firm that provided it was a bid of $39,000. Reach out to them, confirm, is this indeed a forensic audit? If not, what do you need to do to make that happen? And also to confirm that their bid is still good. You know, they bid on this back in, I believe it was October, November. And I think their bid was good until sometime in March. So, there was, like I said, the 4 bids were kind of all over the place. There was one, it ranged from 22,000 to almost over 100,000. We feel like the bid of the company for 39,000 is if they're going to do the scope we want, it could be a decent value. So I think that's my recommendation at this time, that I reach out to them, make sure their scope matches what we want, and then present that for award. The other thing I'd mention on the timing of this is we really need Warren Averett to complete their annual audit before we go into this process. So we would have some time to get this awarded if we decide to move forward.
Okay. So we could probably get some more information, clarification on the scope between now and our March meeting. And is it your thought that we'd be willing to engage somebody or approve something for engagement at the March meeting?
Yeah, depending on their response, the scope matches what was wanted in the RFP, then.
And with them to start upon Warren Averett completing their audit,
Well,
which is.
The one caveat there is Warren Averett is looking at our internal goals,
Yes.
my
Right.
understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a question would be, if they don't find anything, and they don't have any red flags come up, does the board still want to proceed with that? That's a question you'll have to answer. But my understanding, and they covered this, Kristen covered this on our board training day. They do some check on the internal controls as part of their annual audit. It's not as deep a dive as this forensic audit process. They do look at it, so we would get some indication on the of checks and balances.
Okay, so that's information only at this point, just an update. Any questions on that?
Yeah, the only concern was obviously they're not going to, Warren Averett's not going to be here until middle of March, so they're not going to be complete, won't present us to April. So that might have to be delayed till after April. And the big thing about that is they literally just said, we're going to show up and do an audit. There was nothing about focusing on certain things. So I definitely appreciate Jeff reaching out and going that out. But
Need to get some specificity, because if Warren Averett comes with a clean slate, I would be reluctant to commit a significant amount of our members' money to an audit. Again, do a forensic audit, you should have some reasonable belief that there was a crime committed or some real monkey business. So, but that's a decision after we hear from Warren Averett.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And then the last item, I'm just going to give a real quick update on our building renovation. We're still waiting on the electrical panel. We can't finish out the expansion in the back until that panel's here, so we have to have air conditioning to do the flooring and finish out the walls. So my understanding is it's supposed to ship this week. We will cross our fingers on that one. So not a lot of change on that one. Waiting on supply chain issues there. I believe that's all I have for CEO update.
All right. Thank you for that information. On to new business, finance review of the November and December 2022 financials. Mr. Krigler, you're up.
Thank you, Eric. Kim, you want to go over the November and December?
Yep. So taking a look at November 1st, it looks like we recorded a loss in revenue of $81,748.47, putting our year-to-date net revenue at $601,229.62. Some of the key drivers for November included our taps did come in over budget, but they were down compared to October, the month of October. Additionally, water and wastewater sales were below budget, as well being down from the previous month as well. On the expense side, the wages were up from the previous month due to the approved annual bonuses. In other taxes, licenses, and dues, we recorded an additional expense for the property tax at the club at Hidden Creek. Legal expense was higher and has been consistently higher according to budget for 9 out of 12 months in 2022. Legal expense for November was $9,181.25. In the interest expense, this included the biannual interest due on the $2.1 million line of credit at Service First Bank for our unrestricted capital projects. The total of that was about $21.5 thousand out of the $24.7 that was in that general ledger for November. Under vehicle expense, there was some maintenance done. We split that between water and wastewater for the pump truck because the pump truck is used for both water and sewer. We had a total wiring harness replaced as well as the PCM was reprogrammed to proper parameters. And then finally, water and wastewater testing both included expenses from future labs that we were billed for October and November, recorded in the month of November.
All right, thank you, Ms. Torres. Any questions for Kim on the financials? Any questions overall about the financials?
I would just like to point out that they've added to the income statement now and request, there was always been an allegation of how much the club was reimbursing hauling of our water, and that line has been added, and this year it was to the tune of $75,000, I think, and that was a labor, right? Reimbursement?
When you look at the income statement and the revenue portion, it says reimbursement from ECHC. That is only the wages that are
So there's other reimbursements too?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there
Yeah,
a similar amount from Messi, that Messi's reimbursing for?
Historically, no, but that has since been created based on the vote that y'all made in November,
Okay.
I believe.
So we'll see that in the future?
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Any other questions? Darryl, you good?
Tony, I'm listening. We're all good.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Just, the group health insurance for all of our water system looks like it's about 33% of the overall payroll. That's correct? It seems pretty high.
I don't know the exact breakdown of that.
Yeah.
It's not 33% per month though, that's because it was all paid in this month, right? So that's why it was so high. It came due.
The group was up from the previous month and from the budget, but to get I'd have to look specifically at.
That's what I was wondering, if there was like a 1 month lump payment, or, because it looks like it's really high in December as well. I didn't know if it all came due at the end of the year, or if that was
It should be paid each month.
that's what I thought,
Yeah,
yeah.
it should be. It's paid on the first of the month each month, so
Yeah.
I can take a look and get back to you with
Okay.
any specifics that I find.
My computer went to sleep, but what, does it show for the 11 months ended November, what that is and what the ratio of insurance to wages is? Is it still 33 or is it a lower number?
Let me look.
Yeah,
You want to look for November or December?
so much
I guess
information in this
December,
packet.
either one of them. That's under G&A, right?
I think so.
Insurance expense. Yeah, it's for the whole year to date, it's $196,000 and $23,000 a month, so that's about right.
But that's a lot less than 33%, right, of total wages?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so,
No, total wages is over $3 million.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. My point is, it's not 33% of total wages.
Bill's shaking his head over there.
It's 25%, it looks like, but it's still.
Okay. Any other questions on the financials? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and she's
Okay.
gonna get back to me, so.
Okay, good deal. Any other questions? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the financials for November and December as presented.
She didn't go
Why
over
didn't you
December
just?
yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we want to do November or do we want to do them together? let's do a motion to accept November's financials as presented.
I move to accept the November financials as presented.
I second that.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All right, nays or abstentions, motion carries. All right, December.
Okay, now looking at the December report, we recorded a net revenue of $113,269.99, bringing our year-to-date gross revenue $714,499.61. Big takeaways from December. Revenues did see an increase back in both water and wastewater sales, which were up from November, which put us much closer to our budgeted projections for both water and wastewater sales. The impact fees for December appear to be lower. It looks like a significant decrease, but this was a direct result of a partial refund that we did for a project called Soundside Hollow. There were modifications to the project, so there was a refund on both the water and the sewer side for those impact fees. And then looking at expenses, we recorded fourth quarter professional fees in both the pension and the 401k. Our safety manager achieved professional development hours at an OSHA training. Office expenses included the winter staff party, as well as a bulk shredding event for multiple years of aged documents. After reviewing our retention policy, we had, I think, a whole storage unit, Amber, full of documents that no longer needed to be kept.
Half this office space.
Yes. No exaggeration. So,
I believe it.
all of those documents before they were disposed were cross-checked to ensure that they were within the retention policy that was created, and then we had a mass shredding event to get rid of anything that was no longer needed. And then there was a purchase under water and wastewater uniforms. Staff, operation staff all got those blue all-season jackets just in time for the cold weather. And then finally, water professional services included annual on-site flow meter testing at all the wells.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Torres on the December financials?
I do have another question. Why, and again, I've never had to deal with any kind of a pension plan. Why are the professional fees $52,000 a year for that? Does it cost that much to keep that money in the bank? What does that money go towards?
That would be probably, again, I would have to look at that specifically with like detailed questions like that, but I think the company that we use, JHB, they're our actuary. I believe that's where those are going to, but
Okay.
I can get a breakdown of that for you.
That just seems like a lot of money. We've only got $2.5 million.
Well,
sitting
a
in there.
big part of that, though, is also the previous pension plan that's been since frozen and no longer, they still have to take care of the stocks and bonds and all that they have in that. So I think the fees are pretty much what they've been all along over the years of that pension plan.
Okay.
Eventually that'll go away when all the
Yeah.
people that are on that plan will go away.
One of these days.
And I think they also manage the 401k though, so some of it, a lot of it will go away, but they still manage the investments of the 401k, I think, don't they?
It's changed.
But it'll be a lot lower.
I think they should only make money when we make money, and I'm sure it probably lost money last year.
Yeah, well.
Exactly. I know my 401k.
There is a company out there that advertises that we only make money when you make money. So, anyway. Any other questions for Ms. Torres? Darryl, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I'll accept a motion to approve the December financials as presented.
Motion to approve the December financials as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstention? Motion carries. Okay, next up, review of the 2022 year-to-date unaudited financial statements. Mr. Krigman.
All right. Kim, I think this is your last one here.
It is, yes. So staff put together a financial overview. What was included in your packet, unfortunately, was the wrong version, so I apologize for that, but everybody should have, on the board, should have the updated. The only thing that changed was the wastewater expense. And so staff analyzed our budget to actual numbers quarterly for our new board members. We don't include the budget in every packet, otherwise it'll be thick like this every time. And so on a quarterly basis, the budget to actual numbers are presented in the packet, and then we just do kind of an overview presentation of what that looks like. So given this is the year end, this is sort of our, our report for year end numbers compared to our budget. So as you can see, in all 4 areas, we were under budget. So revenues were under by 3%, G&A under by 19%, water under by 4%, and wastewater under by 14%. So there are little bullets there kind of, highlighting what the main drivers of that was. Water and sewer sales were under budget. This was mostly due to different factors for why water and sewer would be under budget, but what we think we came to was just how they were projected in the previous budgeting process was kind of the main driver, as well as water taps. I think even, sometimes weather water sales would depend on weather as well. So there are just some factors, but staff has a plan in place to use a more collaborative approach to our budgeting process in the future, so that we can, pool all the knowledge that we have to better, make those projections for our budget. In G&A, the drivers' wages were 8% under budget. There were a couple of large vacant positions that were open for a majority of the year.
That's what I was gonna ask. You hardly ever go under budget.
So that was a driver. I mean, the CEO position was vacant for about 6 months. There were 0 pension contributions. It was budgeted, but there were 0 pension contributions in 2022, so that had an impact. And then contracted labor, which we budgeted for, but Holland of our Water used contract labor through Landrum staffing, and they no longer do that when we switch to Paylocity and our in-house HR, so that won't be budgeted or included, in the future. That was removed from the future budget. And then the water expenses, 4% under budget. Repairs and maintenance were kept under 9%. Water operations expense, it came in as 67% under the budget. When we looked at that, the groundskeeping was included in the water operations expense, and then ultimately counted again in another groundskeeping line. And then water purchases were 2% under, which was about $38,000 less than anticipated of those Fairpoint water purchases. So then moving into wastewater expenses, the utilities, wrong comments. The repairs and maintenance for wastewater came in 32% under our budget. The collections chemical just required less than anticipated at the wastewater treatment plants, and as well as our vehicle expenses came in at 55% under budget. So what staff has done with this data is just determined, how we can better improve our budgeting process in the future, collaborating with all staff involved and cleaning up our budget for 2023 and moving forward. And in this packet as well, you'll see the actual budget, if you have specifics on certain line items of what came in, you'll have the actual to budget numbers.
During the budget committee meeting that we just had on last Friday, we did discuss the difficulty that everybody has in doing budgets is you can kind of control, or you have the best information on the expense side, so you can, I would like those to be minimal, within plus or minus 5%. On the income side, you never know what the weather's gonna bring for water and those usages. And so initially I had some concern about the fact that there was some wastewater expenses that were way over budget. I don't know if they're on your revised one or not, but the waste disposal and stuff like that. So I just wanted to make sure that in the new budget, that was taken account, so we do a better job of measuring those.
Yeah, there was the groundskeeping, if you look at your budget actuals, like groundskeeping was way under budget for G&A and water, yet came in a lot higher under wastewater, which was driving some of those numbers, and that was just poor allocation on part of where those groundskeeping expenses were actually going to be.
That was all Holly Navarre water system groundskeeping. There was no, the club at Hidden Creek pays their own bills.
That's correct, yep, that was just for Holly Navarre water.
Okay.
Yeah, and Bill, you'd asked about the sludge removal expense, so this back page here has the correct numbers.
Okay. So the one I had was incorrect?
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Do you know of anything in particular that's driving the legal expense? It's been up 30%, that's pretty strong. Yes. Well, do you?
Yes. We're gonna cut that down this year.
We had some outside legal expense as well.
We had some outside legal expenses that were, and we had some one-time things, and
Right.
and let everybody, I think, is acutely aware of all the legal wrangling that went on this year, and that's why.
All that didn't go in Will's pocket.
Yeah, you hired additional attorneys to handle specific issues that came up.
Right. I'd just like to point out, even though wages were 8% under budget, they were 12% higher than 2021. So just to make a note.
6.5% of that was a COLA raise that we gave them.
Right.
And then next year, they're gonna be at least 8.7% higher because we gave them.
You're right, you're right. Okay, any other questions on the year-end review that
Yeah,
was
I've
just
got
very
some.
thoroughly presented? Yeah.
I think to ask Jeff or staff, just an overall, so G&A expenses 19% under budget, the wastewater 14% under budget. My only question is, just in general, have things been slipped that we're gonna get slammed next year, or these are one-time things that we just need to be happy about and get ready for next year?
I would defer to Clinton on that, but I don't feel like.
I don't know if he
I don't
liked that,
feel like
because he
he's
started
letting-
smiling when I asked him.
I mean, there's things that gotta be done, but
And there are some things that need to be done that didn't get done this past year, but not a lot.
Okay,
The collections chemical stuff, there was a lot of money budgeted in that line item, at the beginning of the year. But once we started administering some of these chemicals, we started having some adverse effects at the wastewater treatment plant. And so we backed off of that, chemical.
well, maybe I can make it easier, and I'll just ask it a different way. So we've already approved the budget for '23. You think everything's fine, or we need to add 14% or 19%, so that's
I think we'll be fine.
good. Thanks.
Well, one of those is, I was gonna ask, the vehicle expense 55% under, is that because we deferred some maintenance, looking to get some new vehicles this year to replace some that are at 200,000 miles, or is that a totally separate?
Yeah, we hadn't deferred any maintenance, truck needs maintenance.
Sorry, didn't mean that the other way, but we would have purchased a vehicle that we didn't, because we moved it to next year and we're running it at 200,000 miles.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely running.
Okay. Is that part of why we're 55% under budget?
Well, no, because that money was eat up with the brand new pump truck, $200,000 budget for, vehicles for this year. That money was diverted over to buy the new pump truck, $423,000.
Any other questions about the overall financials for 2022? All right, if not, I'll accept a motion to approve the 2022 year-to-date unaudited financial statements.
I'll move to do that.
I second.
I'll second.
Okay,
We have,
let him
we
second.
have, we have 2 seconds.
Let him
All right,
second.
so any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Committee updates.
I'll do this one last time. I don't really have anything on the Eglin project. I don't know if the, legal, you have anything new on that?
I'll just say, we're still waiting on the Eglin lease to get signed by the Air Force. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting, and we're kind of at a point where we're still going to be on track with our property acquisitions that we need to do, and we're still on track with most everything, but one of the discussions was that we might at some point need to extend some of our funding opportunities with that, just because there were some timelines on that. But we're going to push that out until we know, okay, when are we going to need the money, and when do we have to pull the trigger on extending that? So, but that's really it. We're in a standstill. We can't do a whole lot else. You know, once we get that signed lease, it's going to be full steam ahead. But we're waiting on that.
And in the future, that project will be pulled out from underneath the committee. We just voted to do
Right.
that, so that won't be under there anymore.
It'll still be in committee updates. It just won't be under finance committee.
Okay. And capital improvements, Director Linnell was unable to make that, so I did that this afternoon with our CEO and the staff. We didn't really have anything. We're way under budget for amounts that were spent on the capital improvements this year because of projects sliding to the right. So those have all been, you know, the Eglin project was one, and the lift station was one, and all those projects are just sliding to the right because that's what happens in the capital improvement process. Things get slid around, so we're in good shape there. I didn't really have any other thing other than that. The budget and O&M, Director Lynchard and I went over all those things that we just all approved, so I don't really have anything to add to that. Daryl, do you have anything you want to add to the budget O&M?
No, not at this time.
Okay. And Fairpoint, I'll turn that over to Mr. Matthews and Mr. Crumley if they got anything from Fairpoint.
We all were able to attend your first Fairpoint meeting. Any information or impression that you got from attending your first Fairpoint meeting?
It was really informative, for sure. I had no idea that we were intertwined in that way. And there's a meeting coming up Friday, next Friday.
Awesome.
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, Friday.
All righty, that's it on committee updates. Next up, we have some employee recognition, one of our favorite things to do. Mr. Krigler.
Yes, so we wanted to recognize 2 employees. One is Monica Garcia, who completed the Leadership Santa Rosa program this past program year. And then we also have Josh Tittle, who's a lead water operator, is in the current class of Leadership Santa Rosa. And this is a really great program. I did the Leadership Pensacola a long time ago. You know, the participants, they learn about the community, and they also get to do some networking and some leadership training. So we think it's well worth the investment, and wanted to congratulate, I don't see either of them here, but certainly want to congratulate both Monica and Josh. Really good program.
Awesome. Yeah, you're right. That is an awesome program. I know a number of people that have gone through Leadership Santa Rosa, and they all speak very highly of the program, and they all think their class is better than the others. Anyway. All right. So next up, we have some information on possible sale of the Pro-Am Court parcel. Mr. Krigler.
Yeah, so this is another informational item at this time. We did discuss that I did come up at the Public Hidden Creek Management Board meeting last week. I don't know that we arrived at a conclusion. Certainly, we were going to investigate the sale of this property, but I think some people feel it may have some future value. So, just wanted to point out for at least for our new members, where that lot sits relative to the clubhouse and the property. And just see if there's any discussion on that. I mean, my understanding is if we want to proceed, we would probably do an appraisal and then go through the process of listing that, I would assume. But I think the board's gonna have some discussion on that before we take that step.
So when you said some see some future value perhaps, do you mean that we should keep it when they say future value, or?
I think the club employees, it gives them some additional flexibility there.
Access.
Yeah, access, because that, that house is really close to the, kind of the edge of that parking lot, and that, I believe that's the putting there. They can work around it, they don't have to have it, but it makes their operations a little easier. I think in the packet, I think we put the Santa Rosa County property appraiser's information, might be able to, we don't know what it's worth now.
Just some background. So it was purchased for the Boo Weekly tournament, which then the board kind of overpriced themselves. The only thing that's used for is walkers walking from one side to the other. So the thought was that's an asset that Holly Navarre Water bought for the club at Hidden Creek as an investment, and it's sat there for the last 9 years and nothing's happened to it. The Hidden Creek pays taxes on it, pays Holly by the Sea assessments on it. So at one point there was a discussion of a little putt-putts thing and something like that, but
If we do decide to, if the board does decide they want to keep it, I would recommend that we also investigate if we could make that part of the club at Hidden Creek property. So because right now it's still listed as part of Hidden Creek Estates. So that's why we have to pay dues on that, which is up to $500, which is nonsense to me. Why should we don't pay dues on any of the other property that the club owns, so why would we pay it on that? So I would think that would have been done. All you gotta do is file to the county to make that added to Hidden Creek property, because when you combine lots, they do that all the time.
Yeah, the only difference is the club at Hidden Creek has a different zoning category, so I'm not sure how that would work.
They're both R1.
They're both R1?
Hidden Creek's R1.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I
you
would
could.
like to, and if you're gonna keep it, I'd like you to investigate that.
Staff was
To avoid that.
finding out
Okay.
if they wanted to keep it, and if, basically they said that the equipment, the size of some of the equipment, that it was easier for them to traverse through the lot, and we just asked them if,
That's
they
fine.
wanted to sell it or they wanted to keep it, think about it, and so that was just a couple days ago.
Yeah, and I would just, like I said, I would like for us to make that part of the club's property so that we still pay the taxes on it, which we do now, but we don't have to pay the stipend to Hidden Creek Estates.
Yeah.
Well, I think that would require Holly by the Sea allowing that to no longer be part of Holly by the Sea, because that's part of the Holly by the Sea plat. And so they would have to be willing to say, okay, you can absorb this into your property and you don't have to pay us association fees, which I don't foresee that happening.
Well, since we reassess their impact fee, I'm sure they'll give us.
Yeah.
I doubt they're gonna do anything. And some of the staff at Hidden Creek.
It's a zoning issue with the county. I think it all can be done.
I think Mark's right, it's part of the covenants.
It's subject to covenants, it's part of that plat, so the only use for that property is a single-family residential house, unless you get a zoning variance and Holly by the Sea agrees to
But the
allow
club
you to
is
do something
R1
different.
because we looked at moving
Yeah.
it to parks, and so it's the same there, but I agree.
Some of the comments from staff, Michael, validate this, because I attended that first meeting as well, and some of the comments from staff is, if there was a house there, what would that do to their buffer, for the parking lot and the cart paths and that kind of thing, and even though it's an asset, just my ballpark could be somewhere around 100,000 that we could get for it, maybe a little over, but not, not much more than that. And it's costing us $1,000 a year to keep it, association dues and taxes. So I personally, my opinion is, I think, it's more value to us just having a little bit more of a vacant land buffer between the first house there on Pro-Am Court.
I would still like to see if there's some way to get it out from under the association and into the club, though.
We can,
Just
look into that.
research
see.
it.
Yeah. Anybody know anybody at Holly by the Sea?
The First Tee program uses part of that, they don't necessarily mean to, it's just how far do the kids hit the
Yeah.
different things out there. And that could be moved to the driving range, but that's, considering how young the kids are, it's a whole lot safer for everybody to keep them over on that side of the course.
Okay, that's really just information only. We're not in any position to take any action on that at this time, but, all right, next up, we have, well 4 maintenance, Mr. Krieger.
Yes, we recently had to do some work on well 4 on the well itself and the well number 4 pump. Anytime you have to assess condition of when the pump fails or the well column, you have to have a drill rig or equipment, specialized equipment has to come in and pull the well and they take the pump back to the shop and do the diagnosis. So we really have a specialized contractor that does that. It's Griner. I think the only other one in the area is Road Drilling that can do it. But because you're having to take something apart and assess it, and it's an item that's got to be running all the time, we can't really get 3 quotes for assessing it.
Yeah.
We did get 3 quotes for the replacement pump, but this is something they kind of have to come out and do and then tell us what's wrong. There's just no way to look at it and tell. So, Clint, I don't know if you want to add there's a long list of items that they did. It wasn't just the well pump.
Yeah, so there's column pipe and shafts and bearings. The shaft runs through the column on what we call a spider bearing. One's been in there bronze with a rubber insert in them. We're replacing those with stainless steels with a neoprene poly-type material that's supposed to be a dry run bearing. Usually you have to keep these things oil looped or water looped. This well's been in the hole since 2006 was the last time it was removed. Usually a life of a well like that's about 10 or 12 years. We've been doing pump tests on it and everything's been checking out okay, but you have to get concerned about the integrity of the actual column pipe itself. It's steel, it's sitting in water. And so after pulling well 3, year before last, looking at it, we decided we better pull well 4, even though they were still performing well. And once we got it out of the hole, realized that, it didn't have as many problems as well 3 did, but the pumps do need to be replaced. They're starting to show a lot of wear. And there's some degradation in the column pipe itself. So all that together and the cost increases, we had $46,000 budgeted to do this. It was actually budgeted for last year, but they couldn't get to it around November timeframe when they were going to do it. So finally got here, pulled it, and of course the cost is a little higher than anticipated. So what we recommend is, with all the stuff that they need to do, and put it back in and get it back in operation, with the cheaper end pump, which is FlowServe, which is in there now, comparable to what's been in there since 2006. Total price is $58,908.
Where's well 4 at?
Shannon Road, down close to Holly by the Sea.
Okay.
Very viable to us with hydraulics the way it is. High demand area down there. So we need to get that thing back in operation before people want to start cutting grass and washing boats and cars.
This is not the one with the filter.
No, it's
5 is filtered. It's there on the same side.
Same side. Yes.
And because of the size of the overall expense on it, that has to come before the board for approval. So I'll accept a motion to approve the expenditure as requested.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Motion carries. All righty, we're up to engineering. Mr. Phillips.
I'll be very quick. If you remember back in November, we talked about the I&I had come back on us. We weren't really sure what was going on. In December, it went away, and in January, it's come back again. It's 236,000 gallons a day. So there's something going on in the system. Clinton and his guys, Mark, are out there right now trying to figure out where that's coming from. It's probably coming from one or two sources. They've kind of begun to narrow it down where it is or what some of it is, but I would hope within the next month that we more definitively know what's going on there. So we'll probably have a broken line somewhere that's taking in groundwater in one of the few locations where groundwater's still high enough to come into the system. It's hard to imagine someone's putting 236,000 gallons a month on us. That's 175 gallons a minute continuously, put that kind of flow in the system. So, but they are looking at it, and it is a problem unrelated to rainfall at this point in time. Got something going on somewhere. So.
We'll find it.
Have you narrowed it
You
down
usually
to a
do.
particular area?
You want to?
We have our sewer basins that we look at run times on lift stations, you know.
Yeah.
We found a place of high run times. There could be some contributing factors in there, but found another mechanical issue causing higher run times than normal. But since I've talked to Phil a couple days ago about this, we have located several other potential sources of I&I that are being repaired right now. We'll see how it affects it starts coming down.
Any of the new easements?
The ones we cleared recently? We haven't found anything that's substantial there.
Increase.
Yeah,
Still
that would
some.
increase it. There's
Yeah,
a lot.
but this is not related
No.
to.
And that's all I have to report unless somebody has questions
I
about that.
have one comment about the December water loss was unaccounted for, was like 5%, which is kind of the goal, and that jumped way up again in January, so we got any idea what happened there?
Well, we feel like part of it is contributed to when we pulled well 4 out of the ground. We had to increase the intake down at the south through the Fairpoint Valve. And there are times whenever some of the other entities shut off, that thing registers at 100% at a certain value, gallons per minute. And when we get up to upper limits of that, we're not registering properly, so I think that's part of our water loss. But once we get well 4 back in the hole.
You'll know immediately if that's the issue.
I'll hold you to that.
All righty. Any other questions for Phil or Clinton? All right, we're going to move on to member forum. First up on our member forum is Greg Fountain.
Go over here.
Yes, right there at the podium.
Wow.
That's right.
Greg Fountain, 1901, Rue LaFontaine. Let's see, a little background. 30 years ago, Betty came home one day and said, I met with Bill Pullum, and this guy wants to sell a lot. And so I thought she was going to participate in that activity. She says, no, we're going to buy it and develop it. And I said, well, number one, I got a job. Number two is we've never done developments before, but 7 subdivisions later since then, we've done that, plus the sound apartments, which are across from Walmart neighborhood store. And we got the nice offer to donate $900,000 in impact fee for that project. So, but the whole bottom line is Holly Nevada Water Systems made all these projects possible, and they were great to work with, going back to the Ken Walker days. So kudos for continuing the legacy work that previous people have done in the past. The particular thing I have right now is a water leak problem as a result of the Christmas gift of 20-degree weather that we got, I guess, Friday night, but it was Saturday morning when a pipe broke at one of our office complex that a defense engineering contractor currently operates, and they were responsible for the bill but, or at least they pay the bill, they get billed for it, but then they said, hey, wait, we have this break, and we were able to, well, what happened is that it happened Saturday morning, and we went Christmas Sunday, and then Monday was a holiday. So there was nobody there, so we had water running from the break by the water meter, and so it seemed like, and I got a few pictures here that hopefully I can pass out. So had the break, went over there, got it shut off, got it fixed, the whole thing there. And the break was right at a 3/4 inch pipe coming off the meter, 1 foot away from the meter wall. And so we didn't think much about that until we got our bill for $2,674.14, which is normally $50. So that got our attention a little bit there, and so we were wondering about that. The invoice stated also that we had 283,435 gallons of water used in January. In December, and it showed up in the January bill. We have video surveillance and a number of photos to look at it, and those are the ones I'm showing you there. The key thing is that 3/4 inch coupler to 1 inch coupler break that occurred as a result of the freeze. So I said, wow, that's a lot of water, 235,000 gallons, and then I just played some games with the how much water that really is. That much water weighs 1,183 tons, so at 8.35 pounds per gallon. And then you immediately think about, well, Archimedes' principle and the neutral buoyancy. I could float a ship with that much water. I know the meter read that, but and then I said, well, you look at some ships, and you got a DDG class Navy destroyer that weighs 9,300 tons. So if you multiply what this says times 8, then I could float a destroyer with that much water, and for neutral buoyancy. And so that was one thing. That's a lot of water. And then the other thing was that I ran some rate tests for that much, 283,435 gallons running through a 3/4 inch hose. And it turns out that it would take 19.68 days to run that much water through a 3/4 inch orifice. So that was a little perplexing. So even though I went through these exercises and had a little fun with it, and trying to figure out, how that much water could be accounted for, and looking at these pictures where I just wet the sidewalk, the neighbor next door has a mobile home park, and he said there was no water that came through and flooded his road or any of the trailers or anything else. So with all that, I know that the meter's going to win. So I would at least ask for, given the fact that this is sort of an unusual condition, it's almost like a force majeure situation, that we could at least get the sewer component of the bill waived, if at all possible, on that, given that this was a leak during Christmas holidays. Nobody was there to catch it. Not much we could do. It was in a buried pipe, not exposed. It wasn't the backflow preventer or anything else. So we would like to see if the board could approve waiving the sewer component of that break. And I can't really account for that much water, even though the meter said that. And the meter was working. I mean, it showed some things, but that's a lot of water. If there's any break on that, I would appreciate that as well. But certainly for the sewer component, as I don't know where that much water went through, and looking at these pictures, it might be, you may be wondering the same thing. So at any rate, something we were talking about earlier was a concern for members. I can pay this. So a lot of members can't pay it. If they go away for a week vacation, they come back and they get a $4,000 bill, because this meter is no different from residential meters. So it's really for protecting of the members, as Joe was talking about. We need to get those alerts out there. We certainly jumped on it after this. We never did it before, and then it became quite important to us after getting a bill like this. So that's the key thing. A lot of people can't pay this kind of money on a unknown, unprepared for notice kind of thing. So just wanted to do that and see if the board can help us out in any regard.
We did get your email that you had sent to the board, and I know you did speak with Ms. Buckholz about your situation and everything. My question would be, the board tonight approved a policy that we would do a once-in-a-lifetime leak abatement, or whatever we called it at the time. So is this something where you would want to use your once-in-a-lifetime leak credit on it, or would you just want to ask for the sewer portion? Right.
Yeah, it'd be for the tenant, but it's a once in a lifetime. That would be good. Because we'll monitor it in the future for sure.
Is that something they would be entitled to do?
His tenant would have to sign the paperwork, and it would be their one time, once in a lifetime.
You wouldn't want it to be yours.
No.
Right, yeah. But just as the owner of the building, I can't expect the defense contractor to pay for something like that.
Do you think your tenant would be willing to
Yes.
to do that? Okay.
Yeah.
And they would have to understand that it is just the once in a lifetime. So if that were to happen in the future, then the only option would be the payment arrangements like we worked out.
Right.
Well, $50 a month at $2,600.
But he's monitoring it now, so.
Well, funny, because Tracy called me, and I said, so you're monitoring, and you said, well,
Yeah.
I am now.
Yeah, they got the memo on that now. Okay, so it's, what do we do next?
Yeah, I think if you'll just, there is a new form that we approved tonight that's going to be modified, I guess. It's going to have some additional language added to it. So Amber, when would you like their tenant to complete that, or?
Yeah, I don't, how about if I reach out to them? Once I get the document modified,
Right.
I'll let them know that they just need to complete it and get it back to me. And then we can go ahead and make that adjustment.
Okay, all right. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
That brings up a question for me. Not necessarily for you, Mr. Fountain, yeah. But, so the once in a lifetime, and you're saying it's for the tenant. What if that tenant moves out, another one moves in, and the same facility has
They
another
would get
break?
a once in a lifetime.
They get a once in a lifetime too.
Yeah, that was.
So each tenant gets a once in a
Well,
lifetime?
per tenant, per member, per location.
Okay.
The way the policy was presented to the board is, it's for an account for the duration of the time that they have the account at that address.
The way I read it is, if I live in house A, I get a leak, I get it one time, I move and upgrade, I get another one in that.
Right.
That's the way I read it.
Right, that's correct.
I know, I was noticing that too.
With the economy, we'll see.
Smaller house.
That's right.
Less yard.
I think we're all in the downgrade mode here.
That's right. Next up is Kurt Cosby.
Kurt Cosby, Holly by the Sea. I don't know if Mr. Miller shared my request via email dated 17 February 2023 with the rest of the board. But
They did.
They all got it? Well, I'll go ahead and read it anyway. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Miller, thank you for your response. I've attended every HNWS board meeting since August 2022. At every meeting, one of the board members announces a motion to not pay a club at Hidden Creek invoice. When it goes to discussion, no board member will ask for specific information on why the board would vote to not pay that specific invoice, which leaves the membership in attendance wanting to know just what is really going on here. For the last several weeks, I've been looking into public records on the club at Hidden Creek. I learned a lot about the history, and I think it would help the board of directors to fill in the gaps. The membership should never leave a board meeting with more questions before the meeting started. The membership needs to be comfortable on how the HNWS board is handling this important asset. I request a brief on the club at Hidden Creek be added to the March 2023 board meeting agenda. And what I'll do is, I know I was late for February. I was hoping to get it in there, but I was late asking, the request that I made on the same thing here. And so in a week or so, I'll send another email to you, and hopefully you'll put it on the agenda for March.
I don't remember seeing that. I remember the contact form that
Right.
said something about selling the clubs.
And I did.
Well, that's how I started.
Yes.
And then.
We saw that, but
I did not forward that
This one.
email response that you
This one.
you gave us, yeah.
what is it you want?
I want a brief to fill in the gaps. I've been coming here since August, and there's been a lot of questions. There's been a lot of back and forth, like I pointed out with the board, and it just begs more questions. I just want
What would you
a
like,
brief.
would you like to know what?
When you say it begs more questions, I mean, what are your questions? It would help if we know what they are.
Well,
when you say you want a brief,
I want a brief on the operation of how the LLC that was stood up, how y'all operate, just a generic brief on how all this works. And then I know I'll have questions.
And we have actually decided that we're going to add a update from the Board of Managers to the committee updates section of our agenda on a monthly basis. The only thing is we're not going to get into public disclosure of financials for the club at Hidden Creek because it is a for-profit entity, and
Right.
as such, it's in a competitive business environment, and so we're not going to do any public disclosure of those financials. We do publicly disclose our hauling of our water system financials, but that's a different entity that operates a little
And you
different.
do understand why I'm asking this. I mean, I've been coming since August. This is the first meeting, I believe, where somebody didn't pull up a motion and say, don't pay that invoice.
no, you're confusing a couple of things. But you asked for the LLC, the operating agreement. That's
No. I just want to know, I will have questions when I hear how y'all are running all this, okay? Like I said, maybe y'all done this brief before August, before I started coming to these, but we
Bill?
just need to know how you're running it. I mean, even Messy, another for-profit, okay, entity.
Bill did a very detailed brief on the club at Hidden Creek in either November or December. Do you remember which it was?
I think it was the quarterly brief, so it had to be November.
Okay, so in November, if you go back and watch that meeting, it's available on our website.
Do you guys not want to do the brief in March?
We do it quarterly.
Short brief?
We do it quarterly, so it probably
Okay.
would be up again for another
It was
brief.
due this month. but
Okay, we'll do them in March.
Okay,
Because we
great.
just had a
And
transition.
I'll send you an email as a reminder, and I look forward to it.
Yeah.
And I know I'll have questions
You-
after the brief.
Do you want any past information, or do you just want, since the LLC was formed?
Bill, whatever you think we should hear as a membership, please do it. I need more information before I can ask the specific questions that need to be asked. Because, like I said, we're in the dark, the membership's in the dark when it comes to the club at Hidden Creek.
Well, that will be Mike and Daryl that will provide that update, and
Great.
and we'll have them do that in March.
I look forward to it.
So I'm not sure,
Thanks.
Thank you for your
Kurt,
comments.
before you leave, Kurt, can you stay up there for a second? I don't think, I'm not sure that what Joe's presented, what we presented in the past is what he's talking about, and I want to make sure before we leave. The impression I have from you, Kurt, is you'd like to know, okay, we own that course. How do things flow from what we want to do in our policies down to the TCHC management team, and how do they implement those policies across the operations? Is that
Yeah,
close?
and I know.
And I don't think we've been briefing stuff like that.
No, and let's look at, let's hear some thoughts on the management part that has been a failure. Okay, I mean, you guys haven't been able to get the restaurant going. I don't know if you ever plan on it,
Well,
you know.
Let me address that. So
Okay.
the management part. So when the LLC, the operating agreement was actually made, LLC's been in place for many years, but it was run from here, not as an operating agreement, which is what's really required. So we got quotes to run the golf course, as you say, manage the golf course. Each one of those quotes was $120,000 just to walk in the door. That was before profit, before anything. Then they wanted another 80 grand for a PGA professional. So that's kind of why the operating agreement and the board of directors of these volunteers to actually run it by hiring a PGA professional. We've had people come and look and say, we'd like to run a restaurant. Everybody I talk to says, I want a restaurant. That's fine, but nobody wants to open it. We've had local restaurateurs come to those managing directors and say, I'd like to run a restaurant. They look at the kitchen, we never hear from them. This year, we made $73,000 from the events hall. We have churches in there, we have weddings in there, we have regular events. So if we were gonna turn it into a restaurant, then somebody would have to be willing to pay $7,000 a month, $6,000 a month to make up that revenue, and that's not including the bar.
See, so
we've had people coming, literally restaurateurs, spending a half hour with the board, and then they walk away and nobody will touch it. Because of the,
Maybe you should never do a restaurant then if you're making money doing weddings. I mean, that, you know, I'm just saying.
So those are the questions you're asking. I mean, that's great. I'll talk about that all day.
Right. So it sounds like maybe you have been making some money. I don't know if you could break it down quarterly or give a percentage of what is being subsidized if you are losing money. I mean, that type of thing. I'm not asking for dollar and cents perfect. I'm asking in general, are we wasting our time or how you're managing it now? Maybe that's the way you continue to do it. I don't know.
What we've been trying to get to and what we've been chastised for is so that members like you who don't golf to subsidize golf.
I used to golf.
That's what happened. But that's what used to happen in the past, right? So
right.
At one of our meetings where the board decided we would just pay for the electricity, the pumps, and irrigation. Also required in the spray field is mowing and labor, and that's, Hidden Creek takes that. So we thought that was a fair due. So that's what we're trying to get to, where golfers are not subsidized by other members.
Right, and I understand that, and I'm not against the golf course at all. I played for 25 straight years when I was in the Navy, so, yeah.
So if that's the sort of information you're looking for.
Yeah, just like the conversation we're having here, and of course, it'll beg a few more questions, and I'm sure that Mr. Crumley and Mr. Matthews need to get up to speed in the position they're in now, and just, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to start a fight here. I just like to know, you know, where we're at on it, what the future looks like. I mean, I don't know what your plan is next. I mean, if you're making money on weddings and stuff, hey, that's great.
I can tell you the plan is, if you ask the engineer and the ops people, it's always going to be a straight field hauling to our water system needs, even when Eglin comes online.
Right, and I understand that too.
I'm not putting words in your mouth, so.
Part of my research, I understand that better now than I have at any meeting I've been to since August. Okay? Took a lot of phone calls, took a lot of people involved to get me information, and so I understand it. That's why I caught in this what I just read as an asset. So we just want to make sure it continues as an asset, and then, you know, and I think if you guys if it's only a quarterly report, that's fine. just throw out approximately what it's making, what it's not making. And I'm sure all the questions will stop, you know?
Well, we appreciate your comments, and we'll have a report at our March meeting for you.
Thanks, sir.
All righty, I think that was the end of our member forum. Unless someone else needs to add on, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.